Welcome to Sticky Notes. I'm James Diamond and I'm the Client Growth Manager here at the User Story. These Sticky Notes are held regularly here at the User Story and chance to share tips on all manner of expertise and experience. Now, obviously, we all like to go into a project expecting success. We hope and we work for a positive outcome. But what if? What if things fall apart? Now, believe it or not, I scheduled this talk at some point last month, so it has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation here in the UK, no matter how apt it may seem. As I said, we can all start out with the best intentions. We can all start out with the best intentions and just watch everything descend into chaos through any number of factors, be it people or finance or a global pandemic just casually sweeping the globe. In fact, many will know the famous words of beloved poet Robert Burns, "The best laid plans of mice and men," and know instinctively that it's a metaphor for things falling apart. It's largely because the next line of the poem is "gang after gley," and no one really knows what that is, and it doesn't look so good on a motivational poster. Speaking of metaphors, let's not forget that problems are not metaphors. They are very real, and for further expertise, we can turn to the timeless wisdom of famous philosopher Mike Tyson. Yep, Iron Mike Tyson may well be famous for hitting people very, very hard, but he's got a good line in Smooth Philosophy too. In fact, this line here is very, very relevant, and you may think that you're prepared, you may think that you have a plan, but everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Things can literally come out of nowhere and they can knock you sideways. They can shock you. They can hit you so hard that you're confused. You're reeling and your head just really isn't in the game. You want to give up and you want to say, nah. Well, you can do that. And to use another boxing analogy, you can throw the towel in if you like, but there is another way. Firstly, don't hang around. Don't hang around. Don't stand there like a lemon. Don't stand there like a lemon. And yeah, don't stand there like a lemon and get hit again. It's time to strike back. It's definitely time for action. And now, far from being a boxing champ or a crisis management specialist or a business crisis management specialist, I will heavily caveat my advice for taking action by saying that the following ideas are what you might call guidelines. And please do use them to set yourself off in the right direction should you find yourself up a very particular creek with no paddle. At least you're moving and at least you've got some direction. At least you're doing something. So the first thing is this. Remember your plan. Admittedly, this is not something you should be doing retrospectively, so I mention it first because it's the first thing you should be doing. Build crisis management into your plan. Expect the unexpected. Have an idea of a plan B and don't be afraid to ask the question, what if, when you're putting your plan together. Aim your standards a little bit higher, so should things fall apart, your trajectory will still put you in the same target area as you'd hoped to achieve. The moonshot theory is usually used to describe something that is so ambitious that it has a huge chance of failure, but significant reward should it succeed. But in this instance, I'd also like you to consider it in terms of preparing for the worst. The worst can happen, and I hope that it doesn't, and a good plan can potentially prevent this, but sometimes it happens. When it does, here's another thing you can be doing. Experience. Don't ever underestimate the value of experience. There may be members in your team that have experience of this exact situation. They may have been there, done that, and got the flowing white robes. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. And it's not just practical skills too, it's the transferable skills. Like the Roman triarii, obviously. The triarii were an elite unit of the Roman army, almost exclusively made up of the most battle-hardened veterans. They would generally only ever be committed to the battle once all other options had been exhausted, or when a battle just needed to be seen out to victory by people that knew how to shore things up and actually win. And they knew that because they had experience. In fact, you may have heard the phrase, bringing on the old guard, which is a direct reference to this practice. So learn from the Roman army. And please don't ever think that age is the only indicator of experience. Literally anyone on your team could have the professional, transferable, even outside of the workplace skills that can help you. And what else can help you? Well, acceptance. Yes, acceptance. It's the fifth stage of grieving and one of the most important because it gives us the freedom to move on. If you look at this classic example here, Panda trashing an office, everyone is just accepting it. Accept it, move on. Accept it, and move on. The plan 20 seconds ago was to update the spreadsheets, Keith, but now Keith's PC is being trashed by a Panda, so just accept it and move on. Tidy up afterwards and move on. The sooner you can do this, the better, but it's so much easier said than done because people just want stuff to work. Yes, I'm borrowing a slide straight from one of our other sticky notes here, and that's from what was it? Your Users Don't Care by our expert strategist, Katie Fisher. Be sure to give that a watch. The reason I'm borrowing it is because people do just want it to work, so much so that they get quite stubborn about it, and they'll keep wanting it to work even when it doesn't. Don't force it, and if it doesn't work, then stop. Accept it, adjust, and move on. Things will be much easier, trust me. Communication. Now, you may wonder why I've put pictures of money here, and I'll tell you why. It's because money talks. You know it, and I know it. We all know it to be true. In fact, this idea has caught on so much that the moment there is a problem, there is a certain school of thought that says, throw money at that problem. Let the money do the talking. But there is another way. You do the talking. We've said before about talking to people in your team and drawing on their experience, but don't stop there. Talk to clients, talk to customers, talk to experts like us here at the User Story. And if you're going to make your money talk, then make sure it's on message. If Robert here, in this lovely diagram, if Robert here has a problem and it's getting bigger, then he's got to let Bill and David know about this. Issues need to be cascaded and clients and customers made aware so that when Jenny here is answering a phone, she's not getting an irate customer screaming down the line at her. She's prepared. The customer has their expectations managed effectively and things proceed. Perhaps they're not proceeding as initially planned, but they are proceeding and no one needs to scream at anyone, which is always nice. This leads me on to my final point. Empathy. You can have all the planning, draw on all the experience, accept every single facet of the situation and be communicating it from the hills, but it's all for nothing if you don't have empathy. If you remember Jenny, we were just talking about it. Here she is. A lot of you may have already forgotten her. Here, getting yelled at by some angry customer, but here she is. It's our Jenny. She was picked on all the way through primary school because of her surname, and she's always wanted to do a skydive in spite of once breaking her ankle at a trampoline park on her best friend's birthday. She knits at home to deal with her nervous energy, and she loves her little niece and marshmallows in a hot chocolate. What she doesn't like is being yelled at. Jenny is a person, just like you. There's a strange sensation called sondering, which is frequently felt when gazing out the window of a coffee shop. It's the moment you realize that everyone you see has a life as bewildering and complex as your own. And when things fall apart, it's important to remember that. How will my actions affect others? The people I work with, our customers, their family. Empathy. It's also worth committing this flowchart to memory. So when things fall apart, you can see that worrying is the very last thing you should do. If you've got a problem, you can either do something about it or you can't. But either way, don't worry about it. It will all be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And also breathe. Breathing counts to 10. That's a really good one. So just to remind you, when things fall apart, don't forget your plan. Draw on experience, accept your situation, and move on. Communicate with everyone and take time to empathize. Give yourself a chance. And when things fall apart, give peace a chance. Thanks very much for listening. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for James?
Hi, James. Question from the room.
Hello.
How do I know when I have a problem?
How do you know when you have a problem? A lot of the time it's because things aren't going in order to plan. Maybe you're getting some feedback from somewhere. A lot of the time it's because things just aren't working as they should be. Maybe you're getting some bad figures or something like that. But yeah, that's generally it. There's so many different ways that you can find it. A lot of the time people have a problem, they don't even know it. So, I mean, it's just regular testing and checking. is always a good indicator.
I also have a question. So I mean, we've definitely seen what happens when, feedback goes wrong and things like that as well. And the benefits of being able to give good feedback and know that it's coming from a good place and that actually you're just trying to solve those problems. How important do you think company values has in trying to help organizations to just be better at solving problems when they come up?
Company values, a lot of the time, if you're working for a company that you don't really care about, then you're not really going to care too much about solving their problems, in any great depth. I mean, you may be paid to solve the problem, but you're just like, well, yeah, I'll just throw something at it. But if you don't actually care about the company, do you care if the company succeeds or not? So company values can feed into that really well. If you actually believe in the company, if you believe in the work that you're doing, then you're much more likely to want to do something to help that company out. So if it is failing in any way, even if it isn't failing, even if perhaps there's something you can see that could be improved, you're much more likely to feed that back. So company values, very strong indicator of solving problems, sometimes even before they occur.
Okay. Any more? All right.
Thanks very much.
Cool. So up next, we have got about language market fit, which I'm very thing that's not really heard about an awful lot, but I think is quite an important part of product design. And then we have our newest member of the team, Stefan, will be speaking about the impact of AI on user experience on the 18th of November. So join us for those, and we will see you soon.